And well, there's a topic that comes and goes out of the headlines, and religious freedom being one of them in this country. And I think we ought to be hawks on these issues because they do pop up, and what are we going to do about them? So very timely to have back. It's been quite a while, so I've always looked forward to having him as our good friend James Hirsen. He's a New York Times bestselling author. He's a media analysis, and a law professor. And when he's not doing that, he's playing the harmonica and rocking out. There he is right there on his webpage, jameshirsen.com, right there. Brother James, good to see you, buddy. How are you doing?
Oh, good to be with you, Perry. I've missed you so much. I put on a Perry Como song to see your name.
Really? Well, man, if you're really a cool dude, I'll give you my cell number. Hey, good to see you, James. How you doing, buddy? You doing okay?
I'm doing okay. Yes, I am.
All right. I want you to put on your law professor hat because to the north of us, Rush Limbaugh used to call us the left coast, and this proves it. Washington State now apparently is entertaining the fact that the government is demanding priests break the seal of confession. Christianity's faith hinges on confession. What's your take on this?
No, it's truly outrageous, Perry. This concept, which was originally called the priest-penitent privilege, it's been recognized since the 11th century. It's been in the U.S. since the early 19th century. It's been, of course, talked about and recognized by the United States Supreme Court, and it's codified in all 50 states. And we have to understand that this affects millions and millions, tens of millions of Christians, because we're talking about individual confession and pastoral communications. And virtually all denominations have individual pastoral communications, but for Catholics, Orthodox, Episcopalians, Lutherans, and some others, they have individual confession where they reconcile with God. And this is critical for their eternity, for their soul, based on their beliefs, their Christian consciences. And it's always had this seal of confession is so serious that, at least in the Catholic and Orthodox traditions, the clergy will die rather than violate that seal. It means automatic excommunication in the Catholic canon. And the governor of Washington knows this. He was raised Catholic. And yet the legislature goes forward with this legislation which clearly targets Christians, because it's Christian faiths are the only faiths that actually do this individual confession. And it sprang from that practice. And so it's a clear attack, a clear violation of the First Amendment free exercise clause, the Establishment Clause, the precedent. It's absolutely ridiculously illegal. And of course, they're using criminality involving children as a way to justify this specific arbitrary attack on Christians. And it has to be stopped, because this is the type, we know, we used to call it the slippery slope. We know that slope is slippery.
Okay.
We've experienced it particularly in the last few decades, and especially when it comes to religious freedom. So we have to be vigilant, and that requires prayer, and there is a lawsuit, which is good.
Okay, so is the motive here to expose out of confession something that would involve hurting children?
That's the justification. But here, if you really wanted to expose information and you were really passing a law that wasn't arbitrary, you would go after other legal privileges.
Mm,
Everybody understands, for example, in my profession, they understand the attorney-client privilege.
right.
There's a spousal privilege between husband and wife. There's a whole bunch of secular privileges. They didn't go after them. They went only after privileges involving clergy. And by the way, that law has been, involving priests and penitents has been extended to all religious communication. And therefore, the legislature in Washington put language in there to basically include clergy of all faiths. And it's an attack on faith. There's no question.
Yeah.
And it's one of these, I guess the best way evangelicals would understand it this way: if the government basically mandated certain language in altar calls, certain politically correct language in all churches. I just, I come up with that, just making it up, but that's not beyond the realm of possibility in the world we live in. And it's happening in China, where the government basically prescribes the language of liturgical worship, particularly for the Catholic Church. But this is an attack on revered, sacred practices that have. It's directly on the First Amendment. So the bishops, to their credit, in Washington have filed a lawsuit.
Hmm.
Personally, I think this is so blatant that ultimately they will win. The current Supreme Court, I do not believe, would be able to sustain this law. They're going to strike it down.
So, just so I understand the procedure here, the legislature is trying to pass this. The clergy is going to countersue. Does that go to an appeals court before it gets appealed to the Supreme Court? I mean, how do you stop this from being enforced while it's being challenged legally?
Well, they're going to make a motion, and I'm sure at the trial level, the level it's at right now, to get it in, just like we've seen over and over again that the left uses against our president. They're going to try to get an injunction. This case, it's a state law. The judge doesn't have to have a national injunction. He can just have an injunction against this law being enforced during the pending lawsuit. Now, this lawsuit, we live in a world where we have judges that don't follow the law.
Right.
At the trial level, very easily, the state could win. It's going to be, in the Ninth Circuit. However, it'll go first. It starts at the trial level, then it will be appealed. It's very much like the litigation we're seeing in the current lawfare, trying to undermine the president. So it's going to go up the ladder. It's going to take months, even more than a year, possibly, before the ultimate decision is rendered. In the meantime, there may be clergy going to prison. I mean, if there's not an injunction. So we don't know yet the exact form it's going to take, but I believe this case, ultimately the bishops will win, and it will. But on the way up, of course, we have some apostate judges we have to deal with.
Right, right. So, James, one other quick question here before I run out of time. How do they enforce this? I mean, are they going to stick their nose in a confessional?
Yeah, well, I thought about that too. Like, how are they going to actually get the information? How are they going to know that criminal information or that's relevant to an ongoing criminal case is part of a communication between a clergy in a pastoral manner or in a confessional booth? They could do it by sending in, basically undercover people. Whistleblowers could do it. It's hard to say, or they're going to be able to subpoena clergy if they have reasonable information to believe that there's something relevant to the case. They'll be able to subpoena them either in front of a grand jury or in front of an actual jury in a trial or deposition. So I do think, though, the people involved have nefarious ideas about Christians. And there's a lot of people, of course, that they're not. It's not just a thing where they live and let live feelings involving people of faith. People are openly hostile on the left, in
Right.
particular,
Right.
to those that take faith seriously.
Yeah.
And I believe it stems from their repression of their own understanding of guilt.
Right.
That's my theory why the hatred comes out, because um, most Christians I know, they're praying for people that are on the other side, or people that even that hate them. So I just think this is a serious matter, even though for many people it sounds, why, we're talking about a serious crime, let them prosecute, but it's an attack on religious freedom, and we've got to nip these attacks in the bud.
One other quick question. Back to the lawfare issue and every lower court known to mankind trying to put a roadblock in front of the president. It is brought to the attention of all of us here that there was some kind of an ambiguity of the jurisdiction of a district court, which I understand the jurisdiction of that court would be controlled by Congress. The case itself could be appealed, whatever the case is, could be appealed to the Supreme Court. Do you see in the very near future your profession cleaning up that ambiguity?
They must. They must. This idea of a district court, which is supposed to be responsible, as you pointed out, for a limited jurisdiction, issuing orders that essentially affect the world, that essentially make a district local judge, appointed judge, into the leader of the free world, that has to be stopped. And the national injunctions are something that are in the toolbox of a federal judge under very, very limited circumstances, such as a class action case that affects the whole country. But for judges to do what they've been doing in this season of lawfare is outrageous, illegal, unconstitutional. It violates separation of powers, and Congress can rein it in, and the Supreme Court can rein it in. And my prayer is that they both do,
Yeah.
and that we see the end of this, because it's very obvious. The same people are involved, the same lawyers are involved in 90% of the cases.
Yeah, very obvious. Hey, James, good to see you, buddy. I'm sorry it's been so long. We'll stay connected. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out his website, James Hirsen, HIRSEN.com. There's his website. And you keep track of him, keep track of all the things that he's involved in. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for your dedication, Perry.
God bless you, friend.